head of Google DeepMind just publicly called for something that would directly regulate his own company, a global AI watchdog led by the United States. That's not typical CEO behavior. Demis Hassabis, who runs one of the world's most powerful AI research labs, publicly argued that artificial intelligence has become too risky to govern without international coordination. Think of it like this. Scientists who built nuclear weapons in the 1940s immediately realized they'd created something that required global oversight before it spiraled out of control. We are at that same pivot point with AI. Modern AI systems can generate photorealistic images, write functioning code, make medical diagnoses, and amplify election interference. A single advanced model can touch millions of lives in unpredictable ways. Yet there's currently no global agreement on safety standards, no coordinated safety testing, and no mechanism to hold labs accountable when things go wrong. Hassabis's proposal specifically calls for United States leadership of this watchdog, which raises immediate tensions. Not every nation agrees America should set rules for planetary technology. But the central argument is hard to refute. AI needs oversight, and it needs coordination across borders. Private companies alone can't handle risks this large. Without these protections, we are essentially letting the most transformative technology in human history develop without a safety net. And that's where the real tension starts. Who is Demis Hassabis, and why does his opinion matter? He's the co-founder and CEO of Google DeepMind, which is essentially the world's most advanced AI research laboratory. Hassabis represents something rare. Imagine Einstein calling for nuclear arms control right after the bomb dropped. He's an insider to unprecedented power, warning about the dangers of that power structure itself. DeepMind has cracked some of science's hardest problems. In 2020, the lab developed AlphaFold, which solved protein folding after 50 years of research dead ends. That single breakthrough accelerated drug discovery across the globe. When Hassabis speaks about AI governance, he's not theorizing from the sidelines. He's literally building systems that could match or exceed human intelligence. He's seen what these tools can do firsthand and concluded that private company oversight isn't enough. This isn't corporate sabotage or competitive lobbying. It's a warning from someone with genuine inside knowledge of how powerful modern AI has become. Hassabis has consistently prioritized AI safety, funding DeepMind's ethics and safety research for years. His reputation is built on both breakthrough discoveries and responsible development. Yet even with those credentials, calling publicly for a watchdog over your own company took genuine courage. Most CEOs would stay silent and lobby behind closed doors. This suggests he's deeply alarmed. But here's what most coverage gets wrong. So what exactly is an AI watchdog, and what would it actually do? Think of it like the FDA inspecting pharmaceutical labs before they release new drugs. An AI watchdog would be an international agency or network of agencies that reviews AI systems before deployment, sets safety standards, and investigates incidents when things go wrong. Right now, OpenAI can release a new model to millions of people and then figure out safety issues after the fact. Google can deploy AI systems across search and advertising with minimal external review. There's essentially no independent verification happening. An AI watchdog would change that fundamentally. It would establish baseline safety tests that every lab must pass before releasing new systems. It would coordinate across borders so a company couldn't just relocate operations to countries with looser rules. It would investigate AI-related harms, a chatbot that gives dangerous medical advice, deepfakes that spread election disinformation, AI systems used for surveillance or military applications. The AI industry is growing 30% annually, and most of that growth happens without any regulatory oversight. That's unprecedented in technology. Nuclear power has the IAEA. Finance has the SEC. Aviation has the FAA. Only AI developed without equivalent structures. The watchdog Hassabis is proposing would create those structures at the international level. This is where it gets complicated. How would this actually work? Look at how regulators handle other powerful technologies. The FDA doesn't develop the drugs themselves, pharmaceutical companies do. But the FDA forces those companies to run rigorous trials, document safety data, and submit to inspection before pills hit pharmacy shelves. It takes years and costs billions. The SEC doesn't run companies, but it enforces thousands of rules about how financial institutions operate, what they must disclose, and how they treat customers. Financial firms spend massive resources on compliance, but the result is a market that's relatively stable. The FAA oversees aircraft design and pilot training. Airlines hate the regulations, but commercial aviation is incredibly safe. In each case, private innovation happens, companies still compete, develop new ideas, take risks. But there's a boundary. You can't just experiment on humans with unknown drugs. You can't hide fraud in financial statements. You can't fly an aircraft without maintenance certification. An AI watchdog would work similarly. Companies could still research and develop AI. Competition would continue, but they'd have to prove safety, document their methods, and accept external auditing. They couldn't deploy systems to billions of people without some independent verification. This creates friction and slows things down, there's no question about that. But consider the inverse. What if pharmaceutical companies faced zero oversight? What if financial markets had no regulations? Aviation would be catastrophic. And this is just the beginning. But here's where global coordination gets really messy. Different nations have vastly different approaches to AI governance already. The European Union passed the AI Act, which is the world's first comprehensive AI regulation. It covers all 27 the European Union member states and applies to any AI company operating in Europe. The rules are strict. Companies can face fines up to 4% of their global revenue for violations. That's billions for companies like Google. China takes the opposite approach. It prioritizes AI development for national advantage and uses AI heavily for surveillance, with minimal restrictions on government use. The United States has no unified federal AI regulation. Different agencies are developing different rules. The FTC focuses on consumer protection. The DoD has military AI guidelines, but there's no overarching framework. A United States-led global watchdog would try to harmonize these approaches, but that means negotiating among nations with completely opposing interests. Europe wants strict rules. China wants freedom for government-backed labs. The United States wants to avoid stifling innovation while maintaining competitiveness. Most developing nations want a seat at the table, but lack resources to implement complex regulations. This is like trying to create a global climate agreement, but with every nation having already built different energy systems. The tension is real and immediate. Here's what the headlines aren't telling you. What does a global AI watchdog actually mean for companies building AI, and what does it mean for people using AI every day? For companies, it means mandatory safety testing before deployment. It means opening your AI systems to external audits. It means documenting training data, potential biases, and failure modes. It means compliance officers on staff. Major pharmaceutical companies spend billions on regulatory compliance annually. AI companies would face similar costs. OpenAI, Google, Meta, they'd all need teams dedicated to proving their systems are safe. Innovation would slow down. New models wouldn't reach the market as quickly, but that might actually be good. Right now, we're essentially running a massive uncontrolled experiment on billions of humans with AI systems we don't fully understand. For everyday users, a watchdog could mean better protections. Imagine knowing that a medical chatbot was independently verified to be accurate. Imagine AI hiring tools being audited for bias. Imagine deepfakes being tracked and labeled before they spread. The flip side is less choice and higher prices. If only approved AI systems can operate, you might have fewer options. If compliance is expensive, startups might struggle more. The big companies with compliance budgets would dominate even more than they already do. You'd trade unrestricted innovation for safety, but that safety wouldn't be free. Smaller companies would struggle while Google and Microsoft consolidate power further. But wait, there's something nobody's talking about. How would global AI governance actually function in practice? Creating it would require coordination that's honestly never been achieved before. You'd probably need a new international body, call it the International AI Organization, modeled roughly on how the IAEA oversees nuclear power. Member nations would contribute funding and expertise. Scientists, engineers, and policy experts would set technical standards. Inspectors would audit major AI labs. But here's the challenge. Who decides what's safe? Different cultures have different values. China values social harmony and would support AI surveillance systems. Democratic nations worry about privacy. Religious countries have concerns about AI systems making medical or moral decisions. Developing nations worry they'd be shut out of AI development if standards are too strict. Getting 195 nations to agree on anything is nearly impossible. Look at climate negotiations. They've been going on for 30 years with only partial success. An AI watchdog would be easier because there are fewer AI labs than coal plants. Maybe 50 major organizations worldwide are developing advanced AI systems. You could inspect and audit all of them. But politically, it's still incredibly complex. The United States wants to maintain its lead in AI. China wants to catch up. Europe wants influence. Everyone's negotiating from self-interest. It would take years to establish, and nations would constantly fight about jurisdiction, standards, and fairness. Here's the thing that changes everything. Let's zoom out. Demis Hassabis is saying we've built technology so powerful it needs to be governed like nuclear weapons. He's right. AI systems can influence elections, spread disinformation, replace jobs, make life-or-death medical decisions, and potentially become more intelligent than humans. These aren't minor tools. They are civilization-altering. Historically, humanity regulates powerful technology after disaster strikes. We created nuclear regulation after atomic bombs existed. Financial rules came after crashes destroyed economies. Aviation regulations followed plane crashes. For AI, we have a rare chance to regulate before catastrophe. That's unusual, and we might not take it. Companies will lobby against restrictions. Nations will disagree about control. The United States proposal might fail if other nations see it as a power grab. Meanwhile, AI keeps advancing. Every month brings new capabilities. The window for thoughtful governance might close. Here's what matters. Will nations actually negotiate a global AI watchdog, or does this proposal die? If an agreement happens, will it be strong enough to meaningfully govern AI, or too weak to matter? Will it accelerate development by blessing approved systems? These questions will shape whether AI becomes one of humanity's greatest tools or our biggest mistakes. The answer might determine the next century. Subscribe to follow this story as it develops, because this decision will affect every person on the planet.